studio. Afternoon.
Afternoon, Lesley.
And you've got your first novel. This is not your first book.
No, it's not my first book. It's my first novel.
First novel, The Girl in the Mirror. You've self-published, and at the moment you're selling it and promoting it. How's it going?
It's going steadily. I mean, I'd be lying if I wouldn't say, it couldn't be selling more. But then I think you ask any writer if it's how well they're doing, they're always going to ask for more books to be sold.
It's quite tough because when you self-publish, you have to go and do all the getting it into bookshops yourself.
Yeah, you have to do all the promotion, and there's also the design work of getting the cover designed, getting the actual layout of the book. Then you've got your editing. Obviously, before that, you've got the editing, and because you want to make sure it's as good as it can possibly be, because there's an expense involved with it. It's the best part of 3 years worth of work. But then there's a follow-on book 2 and book 3 to come in the near future. Yeah,
now I know 2's already written and due to be out Easterish, is that right?
It's due out in Easter. I'm still rewriting it. I've literally had it back from my editor in the last 3 weeks, and I'm sort of mid-part of rewriting it. But we're on target with getting it out for the Easter market, and then book 3 I'm still writing as we speak.
So tell me this, without giving it away, obviously, whet people's appetites, The Girl in the Mirror.
Okay, well, it's an action-adventure story about a young lady called Sophie Jennings, who was born with some unique abilities, one of which is she can turn herself invisible. However, there is a side effect where she can appear in mirrors, so she has to be careful of where she's standing.
That's often the opposite, isn't it? Like vampires can't be seen in mirrors, so it's the reverse.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
So she has a number of obstacles. Unfortunately, she's thrown into the deep end. She's quite young. She has to learn her abilities quite swiftly to counter some very nasty people who are basically chasing her or hunting her down. Some members of her family have been kidnapped, and it goes on a little bit like that. I don't want to give too much away.
No, obviously not.
But it's the story wraps up nicely to lead on to book 2, which it deals with more of the adventure itself.
Now, you've wanted to write forever, haven't you? I know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even when you were at school, you wanted to write, and you've decided you're going to write. So I mean, was this book in your head already?
It had been moulded in my mind for a couple of years before I took the plunge. It wasn't until 2011 that I decided, I'm going to make a go of this in the near future. But it wasn't really for another year after I sort of decided I'd left work, but I actually sat down and started putting words on the page. But it wasn't always easy to do, purely because I was sort of raised, at home.
Because you're doing childcare as well, aren't you?
I was doing childcare in between, and at the time I had like a toddler. Well, it was like 6 months old when I left my job, and it was just finding time to myself to be able to write it. And then with writing, you can't always do what you want. You can sit down with the best will in the world, but the ideas, the words do not flow. So you can invariably find a lot of time you're just sitting there staring into thin air, just hoping for something to come to mind, which is what happened a lot of the time. It wasn't an easy process, unfortunately.
I was going to ask you that, because I've spoken to lots and lots of writers, some who've made it really big, some who are like you on their first books as well. And it is quite a hard job to do, isn't it? And a lot of people have to be quite disciplined. You do have to sit down and just write, even if you throw it away. Is that what you found as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been disciplined. I always set aside, usually 2 days a week to specifically write. Sometimes I'll just sit there and just do research, because a lot of the time is spent researching some of the finer detail, some of the more technical aspects with the sort of type of genre which I was writing. You could invariably spend a lot of time just sitting there, just twiddling your thumbs, just hoping for some inspiration.
Once you knew the story, once you did get the story going, did you find it took a life of its own? It
did, yeah. I mean, I was some days I was walking, taking my little boy to nursery, and I'd be plotting what I was going to be writing that day. I'd be just sitting there or standing there, walking along, just thinking, I'm going to be taking this character down this direction, and then new ideas would spring up as I go along. Or I could be just sitting there watching something, and I'd be watching a same sort of type of story, and I think, wouldn't it have been better had they done this or that? And then I'd use that as a sort of like a guideline for me to go ahead and sort of write it.
And did any of your characters come to life and sort of take over as well? So they've become...
Yeah, I've got a couple in particular in the book. I mean, there's probably one of the bad guys, I guess, who I think a lot of people I've spoken to find he's the most enjoyable character. Who, if they see it's going to be, if it was written out, I'd be lynched probably. But these individuals sort of speak to me what they're going to say, and they take a whole life of their own.
I've talked to all sorts of writers who say that the characters, they sort of become someone and start to do things, and even though you never planned them to be there or whatever, they become main characters and all sorts.
Absolutely,
that must be amazing.
It is, yeah. And I've got a good editor who sometimes, if I've steered slightly away from her voice or his voice, she'll say, "Oh, what you're doing, this doesn't sound like this person. It's not working," and they'll bring me back to what it should be like.
So you came to this decision that you've always wanted to write. You're going to give up your job, you're going to do it, and it's because you'd had cancer, second bout of cancer, and you mentioned your little boy, and because you had your little boy born as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, it was after I had my second bout of cancer. I had some other misfortunes and whatever, and I was thrown back into a job which I didn't particularly enjoy, but it was very strenuous and hard work, and in that it demanded a lot from my basically it demanded a lot. It was very stressful, and I knew that it was having a detrimental effect on my health. So that was first and foremost in my mind. I wanted to steer away from it and do something, but then because, as you say, it was the second time I'd been ill with cancer, it certainly opens your eyes to what really matters in life. Life is too short, and although I had a treatable form of cancer, there was always the chance that something could have gone wrong. And there was a couple of occasions where I was at the hospital being treated for low platelets or an infection or something where it wasn't definite, it wasn't certain. So it sort of makes you think, well, what is, how long are we on this planet for? What really matters? And for me, children, my family, because we were lucky to have children in the first place. So it was great to be able to be in a position where I could say, well, actually, we'll hang up that for the moment and pursue what really matters, the family, And it was great watching my little boy grow up into what is now a 4-year-old, very talkative little chap. Certainly takes a lot of time.
So you got to see all those first smiles,
absolutely,
first steps, all those things.
Yeah, and these are things I missed with my 2 girls, unfortunately. I mean, I'd love, if I could turn back time, I'd love to be able to enjoy that as well.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because I was saying that earlier on. It'd be lovely to hear other people's stories, because I'm sure that people have had life-changing moments or illnesses or something as well. That we just troll along in life, don't we? Just and think, I'll do that, and I'll do that then, and I'll do that one day. But something might make you think, as in your case, well, let's not wait. Let's do it now.
Yeah, well, as I say, life's too short, and you tend to plod along. You just get stuck in the rut and in the routine of things. And some people have to, Some people have bills. We all have bills to pay.
Bills,
you still have bills to pay, and this ambition of mine was always there. It's good to be in a position where I can just pursue it for a little while. I mean, be realistic. It might not take off, but I'm going to persevere. I've got 3 books. They're in the can. This next year is going to be a very exciting, very busy year for me, and we'll see what we're doing this time next year.
Giving it a go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll come back and we'll talk more about the cancer side of things, if that's all right with you. But we'll have a bit of music first of all. This is The Four Seasons here on BBC Radio Suffolk.
Lesley Dolphin
on BBC Radio Suffolk.
BBC Radio Suffolk.
So guest with us today is Phil Gould, and his book The Girl in the Mirror. It's actually Philip J Gould, if I use his full name for his books as well. So that's his pen name. His first novel, The Girl in the Mirror, is out. You can buy it on Amazon, and bookshops around the county.
Bookshops around. You can order it from Waterstones. They're offering to do a book signing in January. So
fantastic.
So you certainly be able to buy it from them. Although I think it might be a little bit too late to order it in time for Christmas. But you certainly can get it from Amazon today. And also, if you want to visit my website, which is www.philipjgould.com, That's you'll be able to get signed copies. If you get your orders in between now and the end of tomorrow, I'll guarantee them before Christmas.
Excellent, and you can read his blog as well.
Yes.
Because you tweet and all sorts.
Yes,
don't
I
you,
do
as well?
a regular blog.
We were just talking. You know more about football than me as well. So Chelsea, you've got Jose Mourinho sacked, and you were saying, is that a surprise or not a surprise?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a surprise in the timing of it, but the results have not gone his way at all this season. But he's such a pedigree manager, he would turn it around, I'm certain. I'd have thought, given the January, the transfers, get one or two decent players in, and I think he would have probably turned it around to get a mid-table finish.
The thing, as you say, the question is, who do you bring in instead? I mean, do you think they must have an alternative?
Well, I imagine Gus Hiddink is probably high on their list as he came in as a caretaker before. I know it messes him around a little, but maybe he just wants a part-time job just to see him through to the end of the season. So I reckon he'd probably be the choice they'll go for.
Are you a particularly a Chelsea supporter? Or
No, I'm more of a Town supporter. I'm an Ipswich Town fan.
We're not doing badly, are we?
Doing really well at the moment.
Going to be there at Derby? Do you get to go and watch?
Unfortunately, I don't get to see many games these days. But it's certainly really good to see they're doing well. Up in the top half.
I'd love to know if anyone's a Chelsea fan, what they think of the news as well. Whether it's the fans that have been calling for it, whether they actually feel good, like we can sort of draw a line under this and move on or not.
Yeah, I suppose there's a mixture. I think a lot of people will be upset with where their position is. I mean, they're quite close to relegation, but ultimately I think the result's just not going anywhere, and how long do you go?
I just think it's good for football because it's so boring when, and the Manchesters, the Liverpools and the Chelseas and Arsenals are there at the top year in, year out. What hope does it give anyone else?
I know, but we'll see.
That's me with my non-footballing hat on. I can probably hear people screaming at the radio as I say that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your cancer, because you've had not just one but two, and I don't think they were related, were they?
No, they weren't related at all, which was one of the surprises. I mean, back in I'm trying to think now, it was 2003. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of blood cancer.
Did you? And you had a lump in? Was that a lump?
I had a lump in my neck, and also had a lump just below my armpit.
Which is where your glands are, isn't it?
Yeah, basically it's a lymph gland cancer. And so I underwent a number of treatments, mainly chemotherapy and radiotherapy, going into 2004.
But that must have been a huge shock, because you'd got two small children, had you?
I hadn't had any children.
Had you not
then.
at that point?
No, this is the thing. And prior to that, it more or less was indicated that I wasn't ever going to have children either. So the fertility side of things, it wasn't looking good. And it was during a test for that sort of thing that the cancer started to rear itself. So, so it was a shock and surprise. Oh,
really? So you were looking at...
I was looking at fertility treatment.
Wow.
And within the space of a month of being, going through the tests for that, I was then showing symptoms of something else. I thought it was a bit of a flu or cold, because that's all I had was really bad head cold and a swelling. And I just went to the doctors and said, I've got this really nasty cough and everything. And I was like, oh, by the way, I've got this little swelling on my neck. And he looked at it and went, that don't look right. And I got a second GP in just for an opinion. And they sent me up to hospital within the week and had blood tests and X-rays, which started to show some rather alarming images, and a CT scan later and a biopsy, they diagnosed me.
And when did the alarm bells for you start to ring? Because how old were you?
I was 24.
So you don't dream, do you?
No, and I was very fit at the time. I was working in insurance, but I was also a part-time gym instructor as well at the time, working at the Crown Pools, the Profiles, and I was at the top of the game. I was like really as fit as anyone could be, and so it was a real shock, and to face this, this battle at a relatively young age. Although that's the age you tend to get Hodgkin's lymphoma, between 21 and 30. But I was always optimistic.
And the treatment, there's good treatment levels, isn't there?
Yeah, it was a good prognosis. And the treatment I had was, it was like 6 months worth of chemotherapy, and a month's worth of radiotherapy.
What were the side effects? Because radiotherapy can be nasty.
I lost a lot of my body hair actually for the radiotherapy on my chest and everything, and also lost my voice for a month, because where the area it was affected was despite the fact I had some guards there to shield me from it. But so I lost me, that. I was fortunate not to lose my head hair, but I lost. I was patchy. I was violently sick a lot.
So you felt ill as well?
Felt very ill. I lost a lot of weight. I looked really withdrawn. So yeah, it was quite a nasty period in my life.
And you didn't work at the time?
I was still actually at work, and the only time I had off during that time was a week to recover from the treatment. And I carried on doing that for up to the end of my treatment. It's just unfortunate also at the same time I was being made redundant. This was when we had the Morvan, the Royal Sun Alliance office in Museum Street. But I felt the work was the thing which was keeping me going, because I enjoyed it, and although I was told you should stay at home and recover and get better, but it wasn't my sort of mentality. I wanted to just sort of carry on as normal.
Get on with things,
I think you speak to most cancer survivors, generally they won't sort of lay down and just sort of feel sorry for themselves. They'll get up, and that's the only way I think you can beat something of that magnitude.
So you were made redundant at the same time?
I was made redundant at the same time, and then I got another job quite swiftly after that, which was something different. But then I went back into insurance a year or so later.
Do you think it changed you that first time round?
Yes, yeah. I didn't work quite as many long hours because I was a junior manager back then. I was working from something like 8 in the morning to 8 at night, and also working in as a gym instructor to in the evenings sometimes, just to make a bit of extra money. I certainly cut down on my workload because I didn't think that was adding, well, it didn't help.
Didn't help your health levels,
matters, no. Certainly the stress levels didn't. So, yeah.
And did it take long to get back to sort of feeling you were fit again, and to be able to and for day to day things?
Well, that first time, it took me about a year to really find my full strength, just to get back to the normal sort of levels of energy. And then I just carried, after a year or 2 years, you start to get back in the swing of things, and you just carry on and just move on and just get, throw yourself at everything as normal.
But you did have children, which...
We did, and which at the time we had a really good doctor consultant at the hospital who said, he always claimed that it was the chemotherapy which cured my infertility, which was one of those things where we often went up there for my checkups and he'd say, oh yeah, you're the one, we cured your infertility, yeah. So we had 2 children. Quite quickly after, it was like 2006 we had Rebecca, and 2008 we had Sophie.
And you were working, as you say, quite a high-pressured job, a team leader in insurance, weren't you?
Yeah.
And
then the second bout of cancer, this was testicular cancer.
Yes, that one was a complete surprise because it got misdiagnosed about 8 months earlier from a GP who said it was just like an infection. So you just thought, well, it's nothing to worry about. And then I just went to the doctors for something also unrelated, and a locum sort of was bemused by it, and he sort of stepped back and said, blimey, it's like the size of a grapefruit. So I was referred to the hospital, and within a week of seeing them, I was under the knife, and then another 4 months of chemotherapy.
Oh, how did you feel when you knew that you had to go through all of that chemo again?
Oh, I don't know. It's I'd like to say I was surprised, but in the back of my mind I wasn't, because I think even now I sort of think, well, yeah, I've survived it, and as time progresses you think, well, you're cured and it's less chance of getting it. But even now, back of my mind, I still think, well, it's like the Grim Reaper with his sickle, he's hanging over me. It's going to come back at some point. So yes, I was surprised, but I just didn't, I didn't feel I'd have to
get on with it again.
You just get on, you just battle it, and it was hard. It was a more aggressive form of treatment which I had to go, because the treatment they usually treat that form of cancer is the same as what they did the previous time. And because I'd already had the medicines the first time around, it's too damaging to your body to have again, so they gave me something a little bit worse or a little bit stronger, which my body didn't take too kindly to. So I was in hospital a few times having platelets replaced and blood transfusions, and and that does bring you awake to your senses and make you realise how fragile life really is. So I think that was then I sort of started to think, I need to grasp life by both hands and do something I actually want to do, not have to do.
And I imagine as well, you learned, even the first time round, you learned a lot about yourself, about how you deal with, because until any of us are in that sort of situation, you just don't know, do you?
No, and I think a lot of people are surprised how blasé I was sometimes about the treatment. You go in, and also how freely I was like now talking to you about it. Yeah. Freely, I sort of talked to a total stranger on the street about it, and some people were quite guarded and shield themselves from, discussing something that private and that personal. But I sometimes see it as I'd like to think it can be inspirational for others who are going through that, because there's people today diagnosed with cancer who are going to be, that's probably their worst day of their lives. And it seems like the day, life is over with, but it isn't. It's just something you just have to endure and get over, and look at the positives. It makes you a stronger person.
And would you say you have turned it into a positive in the sense that you are now doing, and you have been doing something that it's made you realise what you really want to do, and you appreciated a little boy. You've seen him growing.
Yeah, it has a lot of positives. It's made me realise how strong I am as an individual, and how willing I am to try things and risk failure. And I think the thing is, I'd rather try and fail than sit there and have done nothing about it. Because as you say very early on, there's a lot of people out there who would like to do things, and it's on their bucket list, but they never have time to do it. I implore you, do it. Go out there. If you've got something on you really want to do in your life, just do it. Because you just don't know when life's going to be snatched away from you.
I'm going to play another bit of music, and then we'll come back and talk. And your wife obviously has been really supportive through all of this as well. And I guess the decision, although it's what you wanted to do, it's not something that's just that easy to do either. So we'll talk about that as well. So Phil Gould, my guest. Just gone 25 to 4, and this is Darlene Love. Darlene Love, Winter Wonderland, 22 minutes to 4, BBC Radio Suffolk on a Thursday afternoon. My guest with us is author Phil Gould. Does that sound good? Philip J Gould, the author.
It does sound good, yes. Thanks. Say it again.
And Philip, we're just talking about the fact that he gave up his job in the end to do what he really has always wanted to do, which is writing. It took two sort of brushes with cancer to eventually persuade you. And although you was thinking, I really ought to get on and do what I want, and I think the job you had was quite demanding, so probably not something you could have gone back to easily.
It was
anyway.
Something which was having an effect on my life, and my health, rather, I should say. I was having migraines like 3 out of 4 days every week, and I weren't feeling the best, my best of health. I just felt fatigued and tired most of the time. And I know a lot of people out there do feel fatigued and tired if you worked hard, but the migraines were something which was a byproduct of the treatment I had. And my immune system is very low, and that's one of the things I have to put up with for the rest of my life, because having had 2 low courses of chemotherapy, it damages the good cells as well as the bad ones. So I have to be careful of picking up some nasty bugs and things, which within a call centre environment and air conditioning and things, you tend to get exposed quite regularly to these nasty things. So I'd have more than my fair share of flus and colds, and even chicken pox when I was like 30. It's ridiculous getting chicken pox as an older man. These sort of things. So we have to put up with.
So obviously you had the discussion with your wife and so on, and made the decision. Was that easy for you both, or was it? I mean, it's a big decision, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a big decision, and I think for the first, for 2 or 3 months we discussed it, and I said, we had to be in a financially secure position to entertain the idea, which took a lot of sort of saving, for a couple of years, scribbling and saving for that. But when I made the decision, this was like in sort of like the October of 2011. I was going to decide to leave I was going to hand my notice in on New Year's Eve that year, actually, but ended up not doing it because my boss offered me a decent bonus, which required me to stay there to April the following year. So I thought, okay, I'll park it for now. And then as soon as the bonus was paid, I was adios, I went.
How did it feel the first day that you went at work?
Well, to be honest, I didn't feel like anything different. It wasn't for a couple of weeks after that I started to really sort of feel like I was missing something. It was almost like I'd lost a limb. Although I left, I still went back to see people I worked with quite regularly. In fact, until they closed the office there in June this year, May this year, I should say. I was there every other week, sort of seeing someone I used to work with.
So was it the social side you missed?
Yeah, it was the social side. I didn't miss the work especially. It was a tough environment to work in. It was like dealing with home insurance claims, so you're firefighting constantly with people sort of trying to pursue claiming for their mishaps or disasters. So I didn't miss that aspect, but the social aspect, I think if you leave any work environment or you ask anybody, they're going to say they'll miss their friends who they made there.
Are you still glad you did it?
Oh yes, yeah. Very quick to jump on that. Yes, I am. I don't regret, and in fact, regrets are life's too short to regret anything really. I stand by this decision I made. It's sad to see my bank balance going dribbling away a little bit, but I would never have been able to fulfil the ambition had I stayed. You need to dedicate a lot of time to writing. And rewriting and writing again, and also then it's not just that, it's the promoting of the book and the things where you don't see any rewards for really, other than maybe selling a few copies.
Although you had written a book before, hadn't you?
Yes, back in 2003, 2004, again around the same time I was undergoing the treatment. I wrote the Book of Alternative Records, which was a compilation of record feats, which was to give the Guinness Book of Records a bit of a run for their money, which is still available in shops. Although I think you probably would have to order that one now because it's so long ago it was out. But it was on the shelves at WH Smith's and Waterstones.
Which must have been very exciting for that first one.
Absolutely, it was. And we did a book signing at WH Smith's, which was really exhilarating, to be honest. Yeah.
And what's it feel like when you got this one? So it came and you got your first box and you were able to pull it out?
When it was delivered, which was about 3 weeks before the release date, it was exciting, actually. And I opened it with with cotton gloves almost. It was like I didn't want to damage the cover, that's how excited I was. And the smell of it and everything, and it feels heavier than I anticipated. I thought, I didn't expect it to have that
all those
weight.
Words.
I know, it was about 110,000 words to, give or take a few. So it was really good, a really good feeling, and we did celebrate with some bubbly later that night.
I think it deserves to. So and you got Christmas all planned at home with the family, yeah?
Yeah, it's a family Christmas. I'll be doing the turkey. I tend to do most of the cooking. Yeah. So I'll be, the kids and that will open their Christmas presents, like most do in the morning, and the day's mapped out. Pretty much traditional.
Family, you build your own traditions, don't you, in a family?
Yeah.
And I imagine that a lot of people are going to get copies of The Girl in the Mirror. I mean, it's your ready-made Christmas present, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Quite a few have received a copy already. Some of my friends have bought multiple copies, and one individual bought 7, which I was really pleased about. So they do make good Christmas presents, especially stocking fillers.
I think everybody ought to have a book in their Christmas stocking. So here you go.
Yeah, and if you do miss the rush, Amazon do e-books as well. You can even download them on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day, if you
I'm sure one or two of your listeners will get an e-reader on Christmas morning. So there you make that your first book.
First book, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it, as well? And so at the moment it's the first in a trilogy. It's The Girl in the Mirror. It's written by Philip J Gould, and that's Gould. The next one out, which is already, you're just revising it at the moment,
The
aren't you?
Sons of J it's called. It's due out, I'd say, the week before Easter. That's when we're planning to bring that out. So I've got a production team help me design the cover on standby. I think February is when we'll be sitting down and designing the cover and everything. But that's all planned. And then book 3 we're looking at around October, November next year. But that's only half written at the moment. Part 1's in the bag, but part 2 I'm still working on, yeah.
Well, I think it's a truly inspiring story, and thank you for coming in and telling us. So your advice basically is that if you've got a plan, if you possibly can, don't leave it, get on with it.
Don't leave it too late, because life is too short, and you just don't know what's around the corner. So,
none of us do know, do we?
No, absolutely. So grasp life and just make of it as you can.
So philipjgould.com is the website, and the book is Philip J Gould, The Girl in the Mirror, and you can get a copy via the website on Amazon. Go into Waterstones and order it as well, and let me know when you've got that signing, and I'll make sure we give it a mention as well.
I will do. Thank you.
Have a lovely Christmas.
Thanks, Lesley. Thank you.